And this is great, the God of the second person is one of deep compassion. It is that which uplifts all humankind. It's the God to which one must humbly bend thy knee in awe and reverence towards, consequently making deep knowledge of the absolute self difficult to recognize. So the God in first person is also very difficult to recognize. Simultaneously creating for them a wide-scale, remote viewing of the reality in which they are occupying. Control on how they perceive reality, that is us, by augmenting it to best suit their purpose. I am suggesting this sounds absurd for a good number of you, because it probably does, almost certainly does. But going forth, I think that an analogy can be found within the Lord of the Rings. And there's also, yes, this analogy. There's a king. It's an old, ancient king. And he had a ring. And he believed this ring commanded the demons. That he controlled all the demons, or not all of them, but many, many demons with this ring. There was a hierarchy of demons. And so he wore this ring, and it was quite powerful. The rituals in which he used and the ideas in which he presented were passed along in a book, and they're still practiced to this day. The Ring of Power. Whether or not that is true, I can't say for sure, but it's still practiced. Tolkien might have known that. I don't know if he did. So whether it is pure symbolism for something less esoteric, less esoteric than what I'm suggesting here, it's the symbolism of a pyramid is still quite profound, with the eye on the top, all-seeing eye, with a pyramid that you see on the front of a $1 bill. So it would be a fitting explanation of the subtle domain control hierarchy of the psychic state, of the subtle state, the dream state. You must maintain a rigidness of discrete levels of the expansiveness of what one can see. Sure, at the bottom of this pyramid, there's lots to see, because it's the biggest part of the pyramid, right? There's lots of stuff to see, but it's the lowest of the psychic matter. So, and there's the fewest people on it. And then as you go up, the density of the psychic nature decreases, so they actually do have more expansive consciousness as you go up the pyramid. The all-seeing eye, drastically expansive. It's in the subtle domain, totally, probably. However, this layer is the biggest, and it's covered by a layer above it, and so forth. And metaphorically, it's kind of like the beings at each level. There's less and fewer as you go up, and then you transcend and include the layer below, so you can see down, but you can't see up. You don't know what's above you. Blocked by it. See down to some extent. So, there may, and in a sense, that schema, I think, is sort of a natural thing, right? Because I at least believe that there are sort of hierarchies in nature, that things do transcend and include that which went before. But what's on the top? What is directing? What is controlling? Is the will at the top one that is compassionate, one that is loving, one? So is it? I don't. Let's look at history for the last little while. Now, indeed, it's very complex. History is a co-creative act. But the decisions at the top make a big, especially when things get vertically integrated, which they are getting more and more vertically integrated. So if the vertical integration was ruled by somebody that was compassionate, good, and creating truth, then you expect those things to ripple down more and more. What we're actually seeing, in my opinion, is more wars, more lies, more ugliness, that is, degradation of the environment and so forth. Whereas, if it was a goodly God, that is, if it was somebody that was goodly controlling this hierarchy, this pyramid, this all-seeing eye, you would expect good things to follow. We see the opposite. Because of, in my opinion, repression of integral knowledge, such as this, such as states, such as deep meditative practices, yogic practices, contemplative prayer for the Christians. It's mostly stuff we see in the Christian tradition has been suppressed. So, given certain trends within leadership, one can argue that it's probably the case that Sauron is in control. Allegorically speaking, of course. Whether this is merely a collective co-creation of distorted values or a willfully crafted agenda emanating from a subtle state of consciousness, which can be explained much less esoterically in the form of the latter, can remain an open question with equivalent or nearly equivalent results. You must overcome these life-destroying values, affirming instead that these life-enhancing values of truth, goodness, and beauty, let them resonate, let them co-create in the manifest domain. Here we go. So, it may also be just a coincidence. So that the symbolism, the increase of wars, the decrease of positive leadership are all coincidental. I leave it in your court.